Hello, and thank you very much for joining me. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News website. Today I have a special report that I'm doing on the Battle Mountain Eureka trend in Nevada. I've got 4 companies to talk about. These 4 companies are sponsors of the website. And the reason that I invited them is I think that they are into a trend there that could become one of the most impressive or a very important region of Nevada for exploration. I haven't picked a lot of Nevada companies in my history with the Allan reports and the Rocks and Stocks News website, but had some huge successes there. So I shoot with a rifle when I hunt in Nevada. One of the reasons that I like to hunt in Nevada is because there's the Nevada premium. When gold is moving, gold stocks that have good results in Nevada tend to outperform their peers that are in other jurisdictions. It's one of the best jurisdictions in the world for gold mining and gold exploration for that matter. And there's a really exciting thing happening down in the southern end of the Battle Mountain Eureka trend. The key company in that area is I-80 Gold. I-80 Gold has recently hit some just spectacular results at their Ruby Deeps project. It's part of the Ruby Hill project, but it's the Ruby Deep results that just shocked me recently. That I'll give you the highlights there. The results that they got from the Ruby Hills. And by the way, I talked to Ewan Downey about these results. He was over the moon, excited about them, and I couldn't really blame him because when you start hitting intersections of 7 grams over 71 meters, included in that was 9 grams over 15 meters, 7.7 grams over 16.5 meters. This third hole hit 9 grams over 18.3 meters. Included in that was a higher grade subinterval of 10 grams over 12 meters. They had another hole, their fourth hole, 9.1 grams over 24 meters. Their fifth hole hit 7.1 grams per ton over 78 meters. There's only been a half a dozen holes drilled into this Ruby Deeps discovery, but it's just a phenomenal, thick package of high grade. And it looks like continuity. You don't get those massively thick intersections that are sort of isolated. So I think that this Ruby Deeps discovery has the potential of being one of the most important new discoveries, new projects in Nevada in many years. I certainly expect that they're going to hit more good stuff. I think that the last time I spoke with you and Downey on one of our interviews that you can find on YouTube at Rocks and Stocks News, he was making reference to some other holes that they're drilling on the Ruby Hill project. And I got the sense that he thinks that this could rival the Ruby Deep stuff. And that's pretty spectacular. When you can talk about 70 meters of high grade gold and then we're looking for another zone that could rival that. This is this is a company making asset, but it's not their only company making asset. In fact, their Granite Creek project looks quite spectacular too. It's had historical drilling. Then they've drilled around that historical mining, mining, and they've continued there's continuity of the high grade in the shell around that underground workings. Then they've stepped out from there into what they call their gap zone. And in their gap zone, they're getting continuity again. Then they step over from that and they've got their South Pacific zone, which when you look at the distribution of high-grade gold, they're starting to look like about a 600 or more meters that are still open along strike. But then as they get deeper, they're getting higher grade on a consistent levels that look like this has the potential of sort of making one of these kind of moves in the zone. And so that in itself is a potential company making project. And I mentioned recently that I've been in this business since 1993, and I don't recall off the top of my head or even doing research of a time when a company had two world-class projects that they're drilling for exploration and in development, which brings up the Lassonde curve that Pierre Lassonde made famous. And in it, he talks about two big periods where you get big runs in the stock. One is on exploration success, the other is on mining. In between those two big spikes is when you have what's called the development discount window. And usually that window is 7 to 10 years from exploration success spike to the next spike on mining. And they're going to be able, because they have projects that already have underground workings, they're going to be able to fast track those projects and narrow that development discount window into a year or two, which is a tremendously remarkable situation to have one project like that, to have one discovery like that, and then have that long development discount window. They've got two world-class deposits that they're drilling, and those both have the 1 to 2 year kind of production scenario, which narrows that Lassonde curve. And what all this means to me is that and I'm not saying this, they're saying it, they're talking about moving from under 100,000 ounces to 250 and then 500,000 ounces in the next few years. And that growth profile in production would drive them into the second largest gold producer in Nevada, only behind the joint venture between Barrick and Newmont. So a company of that stature and production profile of high-grade gold with high margins would make them a multi-billion-dollar company. Yet they only have about a $700 or $800 million valuation right now. And to put things into even more exciting is that they have purchased a production facility, and at that production facility, they're going to be able to produce or to process material from all of their mining operations. Plus, they have the ability to produce refractory ore, and there's only a couple of those kind of facilities in the whole United States. And one of them is owned by the joint venture with Newmont and Barrick, and these guys own one. And that has a lot of capacity beyond their own production. So they can be on the lookout for other refractory ore deposits. And that's an important strategic thing, because a lot of the mines in Nevada are oxide deposits that are now transitioning into the sulfide into the refractory material. And that gives them an opportunity to be acquirer of other projects that need their production facility. So I think whether you look at this on the immediate term, what they can do with the drilling and the near-term production, or the longer term, which is the ability to grow their production quite rapidly, and their ability to be out there acquiring projects. And Ewan Downey is one of the best deal makers that I know in the business. And he's been a tremendous skill at acquiring projects that, are growth projects that he can get at a reasonable price. So not only does he have tremendous talent with the truth machine, he has tremendous talent with the deal making and the checkbook. So I think they've got some tremendous world-class projects on their hands. And I believe that this is a multi-billion-dollar company in the making. I liken it to the early days of American Barrick, which is now Barrick Gold. Back then, they came from a small junior mining company and grew into the world's largest and one of the world's largest mining companies. And they did that in Nevada. So this Nevada-focused company of I-80 has a tremendous future ahead of it. And I think that it is a core holding kind of a stock for investors in the sector. I would much rather own something like this than one of the major mining companies, because you're going to see, yes, gold goes up. You're going to see those big gold mining stocks go up, but it's going to be on a pretty modest growth for the investor. This company, I think, has very limited downside, but tremendous upside potential. And, that's not pie in the sky potential. That's realistic potential. They're doing it with the truth machine, and they have their own processing facility. So they've got all the key check marks, and I invite you to do your homework on that one. A great place, not to promote my own stuff, but a great place for that is on my YouTube channel that I mentioned earlier at Rocks and Stocks News, because I've done a bunch of interviews with you, and he's a great guy and one of the smartest exploration guys I know, and one of the best deal makers. And that's a hell of a combination to have running your company. So I like I-80 a lot. I think they're going to be a much more higher value company in the coming years. I invite you to do your homework on that company. So right beside I-80 Gold is Paycore Minerals. Paycore Minerals is not a well-known name in the junior exploration scene, because they only came out publicly trading in the past few months. But in those few months, let me give you the highlights of their 3 news releases. Paycore Minerals intersects 4.5 grams per ton gold equivalent over 28 meters and 5.3 grams per ton gold over 23 meters from their near surface oxide target. Okay, so to put that into context, oxide gold deposits, bulk tonnage deposits that are at surface, a lot of those are being mined these days with an average grade of about 0.5 gram per ton. When you're looking at orders of magnitude of that, it's fair to say that this is a high grade open pit target, a tremendously high grade. And so that's initially what got me excited about the project, but that's at surface. Then they drilled deeper into what they call their FAD main zone, and they drilled 21.1 grams per ton gold equivalent over 10.1 meters. So one of the things that you want to see in a higher grade system is thick intersections. You don't often get that combination of 21 grams over 10 meters. You'd be happy often to have 21 grams over a couple meters in a gold project. To have it over 10 meters is a very thick intersection at their FAD main zone. Then they followed that up with another hit just a few days ago that they announced Paycore Minerals intersects 11.53 grams gold equivalent over 25 meters at their FAD main zone. And this is right beside I-80. So I think what you're starting to picture here, are right beside I-80's Ruby Hills project, you start to picture, okay, you got the I-80 stuff with at Ruby Hills. Right next door to that, you've got what looks like, whether you value the company based on their oxide target or their underground target, it's got the dual combination. And I really think that if you look at their current valuation, it's some under $50 million. I think you could make a case that, you're getting one at a cheap valuation and another at at zero. And I think the only reason that's happening is because this is not a well-known company yet. And I emphasize yet, because I can see that they are on the way to becoming a very well-known junior mining company. They only have a little bit of stock out. It carries a modest valuation. They have cash in the bank. They have drilling underway. They have more results to come. They're going to keep drilling and coming out with more results. And, that makes this a special situation. And that was if it was just sitting on its own. But I think that if I'm correct in my assumption that I believe I-80's Ruby Deeps discovery is going to become a tremendously important Nevada deposit, it's going to shine a lot of light onto this into this region. And if investors are looking into this region, well, right next door to Ruby Deeps, you've got the Paycore Minerals FAD oxide deposit and their FAD main zone. I just spoke recently last week with Christina McCarthy of the company, and we talked about this news. You can find it on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, and I think they've got a handle on the geology of the oxide zone and the geology of their FAD main zone. And, that kind of understanding and helps to make predictable drill results down the road. And so I'm really excited about their oxide stuff. I'm really excited about the deeper stuff at the FAD main zone, the thick intersections of high grade. It looks like a carbonate replacement system. It's got high-grade zinc in there as well. And these things can get very big. So, you've got that excitement. Well, I think there's three catalysts. You've got gold, I think, is going to head higher. You've got Nevada and the Ruby Deeps discovery that I think is going to bring a lot of investors to the immediate area. And then when you look outside that, you got Paycore with a cheap valuation, a tight share structure, cash in the bank, and their oxide and their deeper zone. That's and then the big catalyst, if you will, beyond those three is success with the drilling. And I think they're going to continue to have important success with the drilling. Got a good team involved here. They've done all the right moves of bringing a company public. Maybe the only part that they could have done better is timing. You know, when there was a stronger market for the price of gold. But that's very difficult to do because you've got to go through all this regulatory stuff to get a company publicly traded. So it's not like you can fine tune that and bring it out at the perfect time. But having said that, I think we're coming into a much stronger market. You know, when gold hit 2,100 earlier this year, it then came back down to 1,800, which was an important, if you look back over the last year, it was an important support level. Now it's starting to bounce off of that. And I think this bounce could be a pretty good launch for the price of gold. So they've got a tremendous amount of catalyst ahead of them. And I think that with this sub $50 million valuation, you've got a very undervalued gold company. And again, you got to have, it's okay to have an undervalued asset, but you also have to have catalysts, and they have plenty of catalysts ahead of them. So I invite you to go to my YouTube channel. Look, I've had 2 interviews with Christina McCarthy so far. And I expect to have a lot more because I can easily see this, both their oxide and their FAD main zone getting tremendously more impressive to a larger audience of investors. So just to the south of Paycore, so you've got a trend here. We've got I-80, then you've got Paycore, then you've got Golden Lake Exploration. Now, this one has a sub $10 million valuation, but to be in an emerging area that I think could have the imagination of the investing community out there in gold stocks in Nevada, this one is really under the radar. I mean, look at some of the hits that they've had. I want to go back to, let's see here. Okay, February 23rd last year, Golden Lake reports bonanza grade discovery from Jewel Ridge property, Nevada, including 24.5 meters of 9 grams of gold and 65 grams of silver, including 3.23 meters averaging 57 grams of gold and 452 grams of silver. That's a barn burner. In itself, that is somewhat ignored in the current valuation. Then in July of last year, Golden Lake intersects 18.68 meters of 5.85 grams per ton gold and 8.09 meters of 9 grams per ton gold on their first 3 holes of their phase 2 drilling at Jewel Ridge. Then they had some pretty spectacular grab samples. They had significant mineralization in 6 of 6 drill holes at Jewel Ridge. They had more assay results out. Then I'm going to turn over to 2022. So let's go down the list there. They expanded their North Copperview property to cover targets adjacent to Gold Mountain Mining's Elk property. They announced additional assay results, plus the commencement of drilling at Jewel Ridge. That was on February 7th. When I spoke with their CEO, Mike England, they said they recently wrapped that up and that they're now awaiting a whole bunch of drilling results from that drilling that they did starting back on February the 7th. And so they've got the potential for plenty of catalysts. And look at some of the results that they've reported since they started that in July, or when was it? March the 3rd. February 7th. March 23rd, they announced 26 meters averaging 5.38 grams per ton gold from a new target at their Hamburg mine zone. April 5th, Gold Lake reports 18.71 meters, averaging 2.85 grams per ton gold and 20 grams of silver. So, you know, they've got the makings of something really exciting. And when I started to do my homework and invited these guys to be part of my sponsorship program, was I saw that there was a tremendous amount of historical mining on this property. And that's an awfully good place to be looking for new mines. And they've recently had some, well, since last year, they've had a series of very exciting drill results, and they're just really getting a handle on everything. And I think it's going to lead them to a lot of success. They're, in addition to awaiting their drilling results, they're doing sort of a desktop study where they're compiling all the historical work, all the surface mapping, all the geophysics, all the geology, all the drill holes. They're compiling that into a big data set. And from that, they're going to generate future targets. So they've got the catalyst for near-term results with what's pending. They've got the catalyst of future drill results. They've got the catalyst of being in the one of the most exciting parts of Nevada, with I-80 Gold leading the charge. Coming up on their flanks is Paycore, and now these guys are right beside Paycore, and they're hitting gold. These aren't accidents. When you start having these big areas, this is a world-class district here that has massive world-class mines all along it. And now these three companies and the next company I'm talking about are showing the potential that they may be looking, well, I think they are looking for all of them are looking for world-class deposits in a geological trend that has to the north of it done that. And I think that they're going to expand that world-class neighborhood, and Golden Lake has a tremendously cheap valuation, considering, you know, where they are, what they're doing, what they've drilled. And I think that puts them in a position to see tremendous growth potential. I mean, $7 million valuation is all this company has. And they're right in the heart of one of the most exciting, drill regions in Nevada. I don't think it's going to be long before this company has a much higher valuation. And I think it's dirt cheap here, and it's ready to get a lot less dirt cheap in the near term with all of these catalysts that I see ahead of them. Okay. So now the final company on this trend that we've talked about, I-80 Gold. Then to the south of that, you've got Paycore. To the south of that, you've got Golden Lake. And to south of that, you've got Timberline Resources. And I recently had some good conversations with their top guy, and I was really impressed with the quality of well, here again, all of these projects have something in common. They've all seen historical mining, and those old timers, they weren't chasing pretty looking rock. They were chasing gold. And when you have them using those rudimentary methods to mine gold, that's a hell of a good place to start using modern exploration techniques to look for new mines, especially when you're looking with such a prolific trend as the Battle Mountain Eureka trend. And then you've got these four jewels that I think are, you've got I-80 with Ruby Hills. As I said, you've got Paycore below that. You've got Golden Lake that below that, and then you've got Timberline. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into Timberline. Timberline drill recent results. Timberline drills more high-grade gold in their water well zone at the Eureka project. 24 meters of 3.85 grams per ton gold. Included in that was 4.6 meters of 8.35 grams per ton gold, 7.6 meters of 5.72 grams per ton gold. So they've kind of got a really interesting trend going here. They've got at their Lookout Mountain gold resource area, they've got a resource. And then right beside that is their water well zone that seems to be richer and is adding to the size of that, opening up the window to add to the size of the resource at Lookout Mountain. And then right beside that, you've got a massively big geophysical anomaly that looks like it's associated to the water well and their Lookout Mountain gold resource. This could be the plumbing of the whole system. And it's a very, very big IP anomaly. And they're getting, I think that they're getting ready to drill that in the not too distant future. That's a really exciting target for me to take a look at. So then you look at their PowerPoint presentation, and they've got some exciting stuff in there. One is that they've got a lot of land at their Eureka district, big land package, 70 square kilometers, that has all these old workings and the ability to find more. They've got Carlin-type gold system with 3 mineralized trends, each over 4 kilometers in strike length. At Lookout Mountain, at Lookout Mountain, it's a surface oxide resource that's in place. Sitting right beside that, they've got that other project, or that other hits, and that gets pretty exciting. 3 grams per ton associated high-grade zone, recently drilled, open for expansion along strike and at depth. They've been permitted for over 250 drill sites. They have multiple drill targets, offsetting high-grade intercepts along their major structures. Let me see here. They've got historic at Windfall target. They've got historic open pit gold production of 115,000 ounces. That was a heap leach project. That was one of the first heap leach projects out there. They've completed gravity surveys over their entire property, 1,500 stations. They got an IP and gravity highlight coincident major structural targets. So it's not just showing that they've got gravity, it's also showing that they've got an IP anomaly and associated at the same, and it's at a major structural target. That's a heck of a good place to be looking for more gold. Approximately 4 kilometer corridor east of the Lookout Mountain Fault. This is talking about their major targets at Eureka. Structural corridors and intersections. So you got these deep structures that are intersecting, and they've got some spots there where it looks like those intersections are good places to be looking for more gold. They've got preliminary geophysics and geology at their Windfall that suggests similar settings to Lookout Mountain. At Lookout Mountain, it's got that triple play. You've got the resource that they can expand on. You've got the zone that's beside it that looks like it's going to add high grade. Then you've got the big IP anomaly right beside that. You look at the geological The geology of they've got good faulting that can be the conduit, and then it finds its way into the right kind of rock packages that are known to create mines in this in Nevada. They're at their Lookout Mountain trend. They're looking for high grade, and they've hit some high grade. Hole 2112 or 212C had 5 grams, 9 grams, 4 grams, 6 grams, 9 grams, 10 grams of gold, 33 grams, 12 grams, 77 grams in the right looking kind of rock. You look at the mineralization and it's very similar to what they found at Ruby Deeps. It's not quite as prolific yet, but they are not as advanced. So where is that going to go in the future when you've got the right kind of mineralization and it's kicking out high grade gold? So they at their West Water Well zone, they've got high grade. This one is very exciting because at Lookout Mountain, they have the gold resource, and then you follow one of the structures and they only have one hole or 2 holes that have hit it. And the distribution of gold is very contained right in right along that fault. And that fault keeps on going where it intersects another fault that is more vertical. That is a very good place to be looking. Then you've got other associated faults right in close proximity to all that. So, those faults can be with the conduit to how the gold gets up there. And they only have a couple holes into these faults, and they've already got beautiful gold distribution right at the fault. So that's something that looks tremendously exciting. And if you follow it, keep going over and you look at that IP anomaly, that it looks like you've got a series of faults there at the deepest end of that IP anomaly, and it kind of is shaped like a bell. And the top of the bell goes up into one fault, and then you've got these other 2 faults and other faults coming from the other direction where that bell, the bottom of the bell is quite wide. So they got the chance to ring that bell, and I think that there's tremendous growth potential in this Lookout Mountain and area around it. At their water well zone, I was really impressed when I talked to their Mr. Highsmith, their CEO, and what impressed me is that they've got these 2 well-known packages of rock, stratigraphic horizons. One is the Hamburg Formation and one is the Dunderberg. And where these 2, at the contact of these 2 rock packages, they've drilled a series of holes that has tremendous gold distribution along it. And as they get to the far end of it, on the northeast side, they have what could be, I think, is their best gold hits. So how far that contact goes, it's wide open to keep going in both directions. And, you start tagging holes like they did in 220C, I believe it is. I can't, yeah, 220C. It's just very spectacular gold distribution along that contact, and they still got lots of room to keep going to the northeast on that one. Then their Oswego target is very interesting as well, because they've done along this, there's a fault that goes northwest to southeast. they've done a lot of sampling along that fault, and right where there's sort of a Y in the road, if you will, where two of the faults cross paths, they had some of their best kicks of channel sampling. So this isn't just selectively going out and breaking up some rock that looks good. They've done channel sampling along there, and they've got 25 meters of 14 grams in their channel sample right at right where these two faults meet. That's very exciting. That is sort of a screaming target that's saying, come and drill me. You're going to have success here. Don't go, X marks the spot, if you will. So that Oswego target looks good. They've just got on this big package of rock. Oh, I haven't even gotten into their windfall target. It's following a path that looks like it's had the windfall pit had historical production, and they're getting hits on just sporadic drilling along that trend, and it looks like they've got another winner there. So they're chock-a-block full of targets for Timberline. And so then you get back to that area play I'm talking about. I-80 Gold, Paycore, Golden Link, Timberline. They all follow into a similar path of success. And this one has a $38 million valuation. So I think that they peaked earlier this year at about, let's say 35 cents. They've since come off to this 24-cent level where it's trading right now. But that was after making a couple of important bottoms. And now their latest bottom is higher than the last one. So this is called a higher low. Higher lows and higher highs are a good combination, and that's sort of the path that they've been on since December. And now they've got a bunch of catalysts ahead of them that I think will help them break out quite significantly as well. And $38 million valuation. So that's another one. Timberline is another one. They recently, just in the last few days, they've become a sponsor of the website, and we're planning to get together. I think Wednesday or Thursday, we're going to try and get an interview with myself and Patrick Highsmith from Timberline. So we're going to dig deep into these projects, but I really wanted to tell you about why I've asked all of these 4 companies to be sponsors of my website, is because I think this is a tremendously exciting emerging area for gold exploration in Nevada. This trend is known for world-class deposits. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that all 4 of them hit world-class discoveries, and they all see much higher valuations. But as always, it's important for you to do your homework. These shows are only for information purposes. Do your homework. Go watch the videos that I've done, interviews with the people. Go to their website, speak with your financial advisors. But I think if you do some good homework on these companies, you'll understand why I'm so excited about this part of Nevada. On that note, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.